Howdy everybody, it's your favorite trainer with a belt buckle. Here's an awesome class from our instructor, Katie, teaching Programming 101. How to design a program for any beginning client with regressions, progressions using the CCA model. This is why we're the best certification in fitness. You get to ask questions to instructors. At the end, a student, Bonnie, says, "Why are you doing that instead of this? Would this exercise be okay?" And then Katie gives an answer. So you get to register, aha, that makes sense. Whereas reading a textbook, I don't get it. Show Up Fitness, the best certification out there. Listen to the podcast, read the book if you want to sit in one of the classes. They're recorded, live. Keep showing up.
So that I can get to them. So what we're going to go over today, breaking down the fundamentals of programming, learning the 8 core patterns of movement, our health assessment, which we may skip over that. If you want to learn more about the assessment, we have the seminar coming up at the end of August with Luke Worthington, where the whole first day he goes over assessments. We also have several videos on the YouTube about the assessments and how to do it. So we might just go over that really quickly. Developing a warm-up using the 10 checkpoints of human movement, how to create a program with our CCA, core accessory, and 9 ways to implement progressive overload. All right, so like we said, what are your clients' goals? Like that is what your program should be based on. So if you're just like, I don't know where to start with programming, I'm lost, I have no idea, start with your client's goals, okay? So if your client says, I want to be really good at cardio, what would your program start off looking like?
That's where those jumps would come in, I guess.
Yeah, like that's where we would be, running. That's where we would be going sprinting. Like that's where we would be doing those high reps.
That nature.
But it would be
exactly.
More of an accessory, right?
Say it again.
It would be more of an accessory, right?
Well, not for that client because their goal is to get better at running. So, like I said,
cores are goals, not necessarily the core pattern movements in this specific.
Right. What are their goals? And we're not generally working with people who want to get better at running, but I'm just saying, like, what are your goals? I want to get stronger. So what do we need to focus on if someone wants to get stronger? Do we need to focus on 60 reps of something? Or do we need to focus on, and I'm going to ask y'all, what do we need to focus on if someone wants to get stronger?
No, you'd be doing like just the core stuff, squats, bench press at like 12, 15 reps just to start working them out.
Yeah, just to start 12 to 15 reps. But as we progress, this is one of the ways to implement progressive overload. As we progress, what do we need to be focusing on with that client who wants to get strong?
More weight and less reps.
Yeah, intensity. Exactly. So what is the percentage? And I don't usually do 1 rep max test with my clients. I'll do 2 or 3 or even 4 or 5 rep maxes. But what is the percentage of their 1 rep max? I actually made a post on Instagram about it when I was training today. Proper intensity is going to be the driver of strength. So we have to make sure that we're programming based on their goals. So most of our clients, weight loss, fat loss, general population, they just want to move better. They just want to feel better. They want to play with their grandkids. Those are 95% of the goals that we're going to see. We also have athletes, hypertrophy, and strength. So most of the people we're dealing with are going to be right here in this GPP category, general physical preparedness, general population. All right, so the fundamentals of programming, all right? So the most important thing is going to be movement competency. Does my client know how to perform this exercise nearly perfect before we go adding weight? All right, so I'm not saying that everyone needs to have the perfect squat or everyone needs to have the perfect hinge. However, if we're squatting with our client and we see that they are just moving all over the place and they can't control the weight and they're just scared to go down far, they have not yet established movement competency. So before we go adding a bunch of weight to that exercise, we want to make sure we establish that with them. It's like the foundation of a house. It has to be stable before we implement progressive overload. And then we're going to strengthen the ligaments and tendons by, like we talked about just a minute ago, with that rep range, 12 to 15 within like the first 4 to 6 weeks, depending on your client. and their current fitness level, we're going to stick in that 12 to 15 rep range to strengthen that connective tissue so that when we do add a bunch of weight, they'll be able to handle it. Sometimes you see, I'm not trying to like pick on anybody, but sometimes you'll see, you know, these guys that are super big and strong, and yet they tear a quad, an adductor, they tear a glute muscle. You know, I'm not saying this is the case all the time, but a lot of times that muscle can handle whatever load is placed on it, but their connective tissue cannot, right? So in a lot of cases, steroids are involved because it makes the muscle stronger, but it does not strengthen the connective tissue. So that the load has exceeded what that connective tissue can handle. So that's why you'll see a lot of these guys that, you know, tear adductors and biceps and all that kind of stuff because their connective tissue is not strong enough. And then we implement progressive overload. As we know, there's 9 different ways to do that, and we'll go over that in just a little bit. Strength, power, and then hopefully at the top, their goal is achieved. All right, so sometimes we don't go too deep into this. Of course, we want our clients to get stronger if that's part of their goal. And we want them to be powerful if that's part of their goal. But we're going to focus mostly down here. You know, I've had clients I've trained for almost 2 years. Has he gotten stronger? Yes. But am I going to be pushing him every single session to, like, you know, break a PR? Like, not necessarily. All right. So we're going to focus on these 3 being the most important. All right, so our 8 core patterns of movement. Can anybody tell me why we focus on 8 core patterns of movement?
It hits all the major muscle groups.
There you go. Love it. Yes. So generally, we are hitting each major muscle group by training these 8 core patterns of movement. All right. Squat, hinge, horizontal push and pull, vertical push and pull, unilateral, meaning one-sided, and then our transitional / jumps. I know how that can get confusing. Yes, so by programming all of these core patterns of movement, we're hitting all the major muscle groups in the body. So for general population clients training full body, we aim to train at least 6 of the 8 patterns with our CCA within each workout. Usually I will program the 2 core patterns of movement that I didn't hit. I'll program those first on that next session. All right. So with our CCA, you're only going to hit 6. Okay. Now, in certain circumstances, you might program more. Like if a client has more than an hour to train, you may program 7 of the core patterns of movement. It just depends. And this general rule applies to, wow, somebody can draw on the screen. That's pretty cool. This general rule applies to full body workouts and clients training 3 to 4 times per week. So just because a client wants to train 4 times per week does not mean that we have to do a body part split. And someone tell me why I don't necessarily think you should write out a program for a 4-day split for a client.
Because of cancellations and
I
know how that week's going to go with them.
Yeah, exactly. The chances of them missing a session are pretty high. So say we were to program a 4-day split for someone where we have chest and triceps one day, back and biceps the other day, or however, like legs one day. So if they miss one of those days, now we're like, oh, well, we can't train legs until next week. Oh no, that's okay, Wanda. I just thought it was cool. I'm like, who's drawing on the screen? I want to do that. Bonnie, you just asked a question just to be sure you do the more taxing exercises in the beginning. Someone answer that question for me. Why do we do the more taxing exercises?
Because we're fresh.
To maximize force production.
There you go. Yes. So that we can maximize force production in those multi-jointed exercises, the ones that are actually going to make the change in our body, in our overall body composition. If the goal is to lose fat, we were talking about, yes, maximizing force production. You know, the exercises that are going to actually change our bodies need to come first, right? So what's going to change your body? Loading up a squat more or loading up a bicep curl? And tell me why. Yep. And why is that?
Multi-jointed.
And it involves more muscles than if you were to just be doing a single jointed bicep curl is really only working the bicep. When we're doing a squat, we're working the quads, we're working the glutes, we're working the core muscles, we're working our back muscles, and we're, you know, if you're doing a back squat, you got your lats incorporated. So yes, we want to do the ones that can produce the most force, because those are the ones that are going to make change, really, no matter what your goal is. All right. So accessory exercises, like we talked about, that bicep curl, should not compromise force production for the main movement pattern. Okay. Single joint, did I skip a slide? Single joint isolation, abdominal work, these are all accessories. Isometrics, so like a wall sit would be an accessory. Prehab or rehab, if you have a client who's working through an injury or something like that, I would put their like PT exercises, if they're under the care of a physical therapist, I would put their exercises in the accessory portion. Their favorite fun exercises, like Bonnie was saying, banded walks. If they just love banded walks, well, let's do, you know, a 5-minute challenge of, you know, 50 banded walks every minute on the minute for 5 minutes. That's where the cardio would go. And that's where your trainer engagement comes in. If you guys saw yesterday, I posted in my story, I always say I'm not the most creative trainer, but I was proud of myself yesterday because I do get involved with my clients, but it's not like the fun, showy stuff that you're going to see Chris doing, because he's training at like an Equinox or something like that, and he's trying to kind of drum up some more business too. But your clients love it too. So jumping in on exercises with them or incorporating a band somehow is always really fun for them and for you. So a couple examples of how you would program a bench press into chin-ups, into planks. You would not want to program a bench press into military press, into tricep extensions. And somebody tell me why that is.
A lot of the same muscles are working in those exercises.
Yeah, exactly. So in the bench press, into the chin-up, into the plank, you know, you're working your anterior muscles with the bench press. And then going into the chin-ups, you're working the posterior muscles, and going into planks, you're working the ab muscles. So we're working three different muscle groups, which are totally fine because you're switching it up. You're allowing one to recover while you work the other one. And you wouldn't want to do the bench press and the military press because you're working several of the same muscles. There are certain circumstances where you might want to do that, but most of our clients we're not going to be doing that with. So squats into push-ups, once again, opposing body parts. You wouldn't want to do squats into RDLs, into leg extensions. Now, if you're someone who is training 5 to 6 days a week, if you are someone, and remember, us as trainers, we don't train our clients like we train ourselves. So if you train this way, where you're doing back-to-back of the same muscle groups, there's probably a good reason for that. Either you're training several times a week, or you're a bodybuilder, or you're a power lifter, and there's a specific reason for that. However, like I said, we're not training our clients like we train ourselves in most cases. So our clients are not training like this. And that's the only reason we say, you know, get your certification and get into the higher levels, because then you'll understand, you know, why certain people train like that. All right. So larger muscle groups first: glutes, quads, lats, larger muscle groups first, into multi-jointed over single jointed. So more than 2 joints or 2 joints working at one time over 1 joint working at a time. Body weight exercises are light weights and regressed movement until movement competency is established, like we talked about before. Clients training 1 to 3 times per week, full body. 4 to 6 times per week could be a split routine. 7 times a week could be a split routine with a cardio day, or a split routine with a Metcon type of day. Like I said, if I have a client that trains 4 times per week, I'm probably not going to be doing body part splits, you know, until they really prove that they're actually going to be there consistently 4 times per week. Then we'll develop a more specific program for you. So we're going to aim to train each muscle group 2 times per week. Do not compromise form to lift heavier loads. And then someone tell me benefits of weights versus machines. Like, why do we choose free weights over machines?
Stability.
Ability.
Confidence.
Okay, what else? Say it again.
competency with the movement, connecting their mind muscle connection.
Yeah, exactly. All those answers are right. Yep. So we're wanting them to learn how to control their body when, you know, they're not fixed on a machine. Someone tell me a certain circumstance where you may want to use a machine over free weights, where that might be.
If you're training like an older client, I mean, like who needs the stability of those machines is helpful.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So you may do a mixture of, you know, so with my older client, sometimes we train at the house. A lot of times we're using free weights. Sometimes we'll go to the gym, like the actual gym up the street. And in that case, I'll use machines because we very rarely go to the gym. But when we do, he's able to, you know, chest press a lot more because he can't lay down on the bench. So when we go to the gym, totally appropriate for me to put him on, you know, a hammer strength chest press machine.
The one guy I have right now, his belly is so heavy that when he squats, it's good for him. I know it's better than a bench press machine. I mean, a leg press machine, but it's hurting his back the next day. So we have to do the leg press because he'll have that support for his back and still be able to work his legs.
Yeah. Now, is one of his goals to get better at the squat or to figure out his back pain?
It's overall weight loss, and of course, the back pain needs to go away because of the stomach. So it was kind of like,
yeah, you're like, well, in order to
your legs through the squat, but we need to do it through the leg press first. We're actually figure we might just kind of do a leg circuit, like we do one set with squats and one set with the leg press and maybe sit to stands or something like that.
Yeah. So that works for your client, you know, because of his special circumstance. And that's, you know, that's what we talk about. This is our general guidelines for programming. However, it's so nuanced. Like there's so many little differences that may just completely change what you do with your client. As long as you can explain it, let's go. You know what I mean? If you're just like, well, I don't know, it looks cool to do it this way, like, that's not going to cut it. But if you're like, my client has a huge belly, it gets in the way when he squats and his back hurts like crazy. So we're going to try to get some of this fat off. And then we're going to, you know, slowly incorporate different kinds of squats. Yeah. So I like that. You can explain it. Yep. Also for rehab clients. There you go, Jasmine. All right, so the health assessment, we're going to go over this really, really quickly. So obviously with our health assessment, before we start working with someone, we want to eliminate red flags. So we want to, if they're under the care of a doctor, we want to get a doctor's note saying that they have no contraindications or no issues. This was an actual letter from my client. I was terrified to death to work with him at first because he'd had 3 heart attacks and he smoked and he drank and he wasn't healthy, he wasn't sleeping. And I was like, this guy's going to die in my garage. So I made sure to get a note from his doctor saying that he had no contraindications. And like literally when we first started, I put him on the rower at the end of the session for 1 minute. I was on the rower for 1 minute and I'm like, all right, you good? You know, this is when I first started training. So I was like, okay, yeah, that was great. Like every time he left for like the first month, I was like, whew, he didn't die today. It's good. So he's still with me. I've been working with him for 1.5 years and he's doing great, but he has that same issue. He's got the belly, you know, and that's something that you see so much of out there. And that, you know, I keep telling him, he's like, I want to do crunches. So I don't know if Bonnie, if you're still on here, but you know, he thinks by doing crunches that he's going to get rid of his belly. He's clearly in denial that it's diet. I told him so many times, you know, you have to eat right, but he wants to do crunches. So what do I put in the accessory? I put the stupid cable crunches. He likes to do 1,000 of those per session. So I don't argue with him. He's a grown ass man. And I'm like, I'm not your mom. So if you want to do crunches, well, let's get after it. Right. But anyway, you know, the point is to, you know, incorporate things that they like as well, but don't compromise the important stuff. All right. So yes, we want to eliminate all these red flags during our PAR-Q. And then of course we talk about assessments, movement assessments. We got the shark skill test and the overhead squat and all these different things, the FMS. I've never used any of these. I basically ask them if they have injuries, if they have anything that bothers them in the past when they've been working out. And if they say no, then kind of that first workout is pretty much the assessment. I'll have them lift their hands overhead, I'll have them externally rotate. I'll have them internally rotate. If we don't have any issues, you know, squatting down, I ask them if they can get to a deep squat. If they can't, then that's fine. We're going to work on that. But, you know, that first session is basically I'm watching how you do your first set after our warm up. And that is pretty much my assessment as long as they don't have any issues up front.
When Chris talks about those 8 checkpoints, like how would you I mean, I guess you would check the ankle, what, by like having them roll it around or like?
No, I have them I see how far they can get into a deep squat without their heels coming off the ground. Yep. So when I warm up my clients, I usually start with the deep squat with some rocking, and then we'll do some thoracic rotations. And if their heels are coming way off the ground, you know, instantly I'm just like, oh, okay, we'll need to work on ankle mobility. I don't say that to them. But like if you're working on your deep squat, at first it hurts. Like your hip flexors are going to hurt, your ankles are going to hurt, but I promise you, the more you do it, the easier it's going to be. I used to feel stuck in the deep squat position. I'd be like, oh my gosh, I can't get up. But the more I practiced it, I would just do it for 30 seconds or a minute, a couple times a day. And soon it got so much better. So yeah.
Hey, Katie, I'm struggling. Well, I'm struggling with that, but I'm, you know, with like a new client, if I'm going to, do a performance assessment, is there a good video?
Oh, it's tons. Yeah. So
you refer me to?
I don't know if there was, it is one in the platform. You can search though, search for assessment in there. And also, I don't know if you can make it. I know you're a teacher. I'll say if you can make it to the Luke Worthington seminar. And also there's a couple episodes on the podcast. If you guys have not downloaded the podcast, please download, listen to it. There's a really good one. I think Juan talks about the assessment. It's like one of the first or second episodes. He talks about the assessment. But yeah, I mean, I send them the questionnaire first. Now, if you work at a corporate gym, that gym may have its own set of questions that you are supposed to ask your client. And I take all the information from there. And I'm like, you know, if they don't have any red flags, if they don't have any like issues, then we're just going to go work out. We're going to warm up and go work out.
Yeah, but just to test what they can do.
I do that this is me personally. So you have to find what works best for you. But I have found what works best for me is that we're going to go through a workout. And I'm going to see during your workout, you know, with a body weight squat, what does it look like? Do we have any issues? Do our knees cave in? Are you complaining of pain? Are you not able to go down far enough?
Right.
I'm going to assess. Yeah, I'm going to assess all of that while we're working out. Yeah. Just because I don't like making them feel, and this is just me. This is what I have found works for me, but I don't like making them feel like I'm assessing them. You know, I'm like, no, we're just training. We're just working out. That's it. Because I want them to relax. You know, they're nervous.
So there's no procedure like to say, okay, let's go through an assessment. Let me see what you can do. That is there some sort of protocol or procedure, like a step-by-step?
If you're training on your own, you're going to have to come up with your own thing. If you're training at a corporate gym, they will have you do the FMS. If you're training at like an Equinox or something, they'll do, I don't know if it's called like an Equifit. But yeah, I mean, if you're training people on your own, you just come up with what you feel is appropriate. I always start
that's what I need help with. A couple of things.
Yeah. So go to the YouTube channel and go to the platform and look for assessment. He's got plenty of videos.
Got it. Thank you.
This is my movement assessment. Just move. We're going to see what you look like. So what are your clients' goals? Interviewing them, send out a questionnaire, listen to them, more listening, less talking. In my case, sometimes very hard. And I check in with my clients every month or so because their goals are going to change over time. So we want to make sure we kind of keep up with that. We're going to skip some of this. Okay, so Sarah, we're good on time. Okay, so we're going through the warm up first. We want to get that blood pressure up. We want to activate in all planes of motion, potentiate. So getting the nervous system ready to work out, preparing your client that we're about to do a workout. You know, what that may look like for you is taking your client through 50 jumping jacks or a jump rope, or maybe we're going to walk up and down the street. I train clients at my house in case you guys didn't know that. But, you know, different gyms have different protocols. So I don't know, you know, if some of you work at a corporate facility, feel free to chime in and tell me what you guys do as far as a warm up. But I like to, you know, show them something new every time. But the main things are hitting those 10 checkpoints of human movement, getting their mind and body ready for that workout, warming up that synovial fluid through their joints and getting their heart rate up. All right. So our 10 checkpoints of human movement used to be 9. Now we've Now we have 10 with the diaphragm. So we have starting with the most distal. So the most distal meaning the farthest away from the midline. Ankle, knee, hip, cervical, thoracic, lumbar, spine, wrist, elbow, shoulder, diaphragm. Most people forget about the diaphragm. Breathing. So everybody right now, put your hands on like right below your rib cage and in between your rib cage and your hip. All right. So when you breathe, most of us are going to see our chest rise and fall. Right. But what we really want is where our hands are to expand and contract. So when you breathe in, your hands should fill up, right? I always tell people, show me how fat you are. Push your stomach out when you breathe in. Everything is filling up. Our lungs are filling up. Everything is expanding. When you breathe out, that should be shrinking. So there's tons of different ways. Travis is all about the diaphragm breathing, but he's got a bunch of stuff to help with someone who doesn't know how to breathe. Okay. But that's the easiest way. Think of it as an umbrella, opening up and closing. All right. So that is a really cool thing to help your clients calm down. It's a really great thing to do. If you're stressed, do some diaphragmatic breathing. It's very, very helpful. Let's see. Yeah, there's a couple things. Yeah, there you go. Small tire on your midsection. Even if you're doing certain formal assessment, make it feel normal. Yeah, exactly. So like if I see someone that squats and their knees cave in, I'm like, you have devalgus, you're gonna die. Like I don't do that. I'm just like, cool. That gives me data. That gives me information about what we need to work on. Right. Everybody good so far? Any questions? Talked about that. Okay, so let's get to the meat and potatoes. So focusing on the core patterns, all right? Core pattern, accessory. And what I mean by core pattern is those 8 patterns that we talked about. We're gonna put those first in the workouts, okay? The accessory, that's what we talked about too. Single jointed movements, rehab movements, trainer engagement, fun things that your client likes to do. So I think what we need to do, would it be helpful if we wrote a program? Or do you guys want to keep going on the PowerPoint? What would be more helpful?
Ooh. Well, you can send us the PowerPoint, right?
Yeah, I can send you the PowerPoint for sure. Just send me an email, katie@showfitness.com, and I will be happy to send this over to you. Yup. Okay, so do you think writing a program would be helpful? Yeah? Okay, so let's do this. Somebody give me a hypothetical client.
Betty.
Betty! Oops.
Sure.
Betty, she's 65 years old?
Yeah. She used to work out when she was in her 20s and 30s. It's just like the type of general client.
What are her goals?
She wants to get toned. She doesn't want to be a supermodel, but she really wants to strengthen her lower body like most women want to do and get stronger because she's a grandmother. I don't know, something like that.
Okay.
Let's throw in a twist that she has like one of those heart things. What do they have with heart? They like implant them and then they.
Oh, a pacemaker?
Pacemaker.
Very common. Exactly. Yep. Very common. Does she have any contraindications from her doctor?
Not the
you
one.
You checked with her doctor and her doctor said?
She could go ahead and work out.
Okay.
But
can you explain what a pacemaker is again?
What a what?
Can you explain what a pacemaker is again?
So a pacemaker is, I think I understand it. It helps regulate someone's heart that maybe has an irregular heartbeat, or somebody that has like heart issues. Like my dad had a pacemaker installed. They're very common. And I think they just help regulate your heartbeat when you're older, generally. Not saying that only older people have them, but.
Can you raise their heart rate during the workout? Is that?
Yeah, I think I'm going to have to Google this, and I encourage all of you to go on Google and do your own research too. But yeah, as long as there's no restrictions from their doctor. And I know like my dad had to go and get his adjusted several times, like to the right level for him. So I think maybe right after they get him put in, there has to be a certain adjustment period to where they can figure out the right one for that person. But just as long as you check with their doctor and there's no restrictions, I probably wouldn't put them on a row machine at level 10 for 5 minutes, but slowly working up to that, I think that would be fine.
Okay.
I wish I had the Chris explanation for that, but I don't. So I encourage you to go do your own research as well. I give the kindergarten answer. It's something that helps make your heartbeat regular.
That's basically what it says on Google.
Yeah, right? Okay, so Betty, 65 years old, how many days per week is she going to train?
2.
Okay, that's very typical for older people.
That's what I'm trying to get a typical,
Yeah, okay, good. So someone give me the first CCA. What are we going to do with her? Oh, I'm sorry, you said she was overweight. Give me a height and weight on her.
Let's do 5'5", 180 pounds.
Okay. So she's a little bit chunky. All right. No worries. We got it. Okay. So to get tone, strengthen lower body, and gain strength. All right. So for Miss Betty, what are we going to do? We went through the assessment. Everything looks fine. She's got no restrictions. And we have access to pretty much basic equipment. So we have machines if we need them, but we have dumbbells. We have a bench. We have bands. We've got a barbell. What are you going to do with her first?
More taxing. Let's do some squats, but she might need a TRX assisted or chair, depending.
So would you put her on the TRX assisted first, or would you just have her do some body weight squats?
Have a body weight squats, and then I would kind of assess where she is.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Perfect.
Okay.
Yeah, I love that. So body weight squats, give me rep ranges.
12 to 15.
Okay.
Oh,
That's fine.
could it be 12, 10, and 8? Is that what?
Yeah.
Okay.
Good. Yep. All right. Somebody else give me the second exercise.
Overhead press.
All right. With what?
Light dumbbells.
Okay. Is she seated or standing?
I'm probably seated.
Okay. Seared. Nope, she's not seared. All right. Seated dumbbell overhead press. Give me a rep range on that one.
About the same, 12, 10.
Good. All right. What's next? So we have 2 core movement patterns. Somebody tell me what they are. Let's identify them.
Squat pattern.
Squat and then a vertical press. Yeah.
Perfect. All right. How about this accessory? What are we going to do with Miss Betty?
Do some dead bugs.
Say it again.
Do some dead bugs.
There you go.
Yeah, dead bugs.
And what else are we targeting with Miss Betty when we're doing dead bugs?
Core.
Okay. And give me something else that we can relate that we're helping her with when she's done with her dead bugs. What does she have to do?
Getting up off the floor.
There you go. Getting up off the floor. Exactly. She's going to say, oh my gosh, I don't want to get on the floor. Well, too bad, Miss Betty. Get your ass down on the floor. No, I wouldn't say that. But you're going to see that a lot of older people don't like getting down on the floor because they're like, oh my gosh, but hey, listen.
Do we help her up or make her get up by herself?
Oh, this is a tough one.
I don't know, Katie.
I mean, if she's really struggling, I would help her, but that would also be data for me because I'm like, no, we need to know how to get off the floor. Just a few weeks ago, my father-in-law fell on the floor, was on the floor for 2 hours because he could not get up, right? This was a different circumstance. Like it wasn't his strength, but the medication that he was taking, he got up in the middle of the night, and had to use the restroom and just was, there was so much medication in his system that he could not control his legs. But that was something that we work on in our program is getting up off the floor. He doesn't like getting down and up off the floor. And I'm like, too bad, we got to do this. And this is why,
Is that 30 seconds dead bugs or 45?
You could do that, but I do 10 because I do the dead bugs like with the arms.
Yeah.
So with her, we could, if we feel like the arms and legs might be too much, how would you regress that exercise for her? And I'm thinking she has no idea how to flatten her spine on the ground because she probably has never tried this position before. So I'm thinking of the most regressed version of a dead bug.
Yeah.
Like normally the dead bugs are with the arms and legs moving, right?
Keep the arms up and then straighten the legs more in an upward position. So she's not going so low to the ground that she's going to hyperextend her back.
Mm-hmm. Well, we want to teach her how to flatten her spine against the ground because chances are she's going to say it again.
I'm sorry, I was going to say she could bend her knees at a 90-degree angle and just start with tapping her heel on the floor with her arms straight up.
Or we could take a band, how I cue the dead bugs for most people who don't know, because they're going to arch their back when they lay down, or they're going to put their hands under their butt, right? So what I'm going to do is put a band underneath them, and I'm going to say, don't let me pull the band out from underneath you, okay? And what am I going to do? Pull the band, it's going to come out. So I tell them, flatten your spine against the ground, and then I'll pull the band, and they're like, oh my gosh, I feel that in my core. So just by doing that tiny little movement, if you haven't done it, if you haven't tried it, go out there when we're done with class and try it, okay? Flatten that spine against the ground, tighten up the core, blow all the air out, and just hold it for like 15, 20 seconds or whatever. You know, you don't want her passing out, but we're gonna do a regressed and teach her, regressed to teach her proper technique. Oops. All right. So that's good. That's a perfect first set. All right. So that would be trainer engagement. Even though we're not doing the flashy fun stuff, we're still engaging with our client by showing them how to properly do it. Okay. What's our second set going to look like? So squats are probably going to be the hardest thing for her. What do you think the second hardest core pattern movement lower body would be?
Step
ups on a weight, like a low weight.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you could do a plate. I generally like to do something that's about equal to the size of an actual step because that's, you know, functional. I hate that word, functional.
Like a 12 inch?
Yeah, like 12, maybe 12 might be a little bit high, maybe 6-7 inches to start off with. But since it's going to be single leg, it's going to be pretty taxing for her. So I might not do 15 reps each side. Someone give me a rep range they think might be appropriate for this client.
8?
Yeah, you could do 8 to 10.
Where would you find a step like that for 8, like an 8-inch step?
I've used my rubber plates before. I've stacked up textbooks before, like when I first started, before I had my step up boxes. I had some textbooks that I stacked up because for my older client, he has knee problems. So we had to do 2 separate heights of step ups. But at a gym, yeah, it depends on how crowded it is. You might piss some people off if you take a couple weight plates and stack them up and use them for step ups. But you could even help her, like if it was a little bit higher, you could even help her, you know, trainer engagement by holding her hands while she's going up. I don't know, you got to get creative. You really got to get creative.
Do you do tap ups or step up, step down, right leg first, and then alternate with the left leg, or just, you know, tap up, tap down, tap up, tap down?
So I usually start with their non-dominant side. So if they're right-handed and right-legged, I like to start on the left side because when they're taxed, when they're tired, we want them ending on their strong side, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. So I don't want them being taxed and being on their non-dominant side. Now, to further answer your question, you could do step ups, all left, all right on one day. And then the next time you do step ups, you could do alternating, left, right, left, right, left, right. Maybe 2 or 3 sessions in, just depending on her fitness level. But to us, that is, to them, that is a different type of exercise. You know, you're still doing the unilateral step ups, but you've changed it up in the manner that you're alternating or doing like a side step up. So instead of in the sagittal plane, now you're going in the transverse plane and you're doing like a side or 45-degree step up. All right, so let's do that. Give me another
the reps
exercise.
Can be different with each core pad, each like 1, 2, and 3. It could be 15, 12, 10. And then on the next core, they could be all different, right? Like you're doing now.
I hate when I do that. As far as so with the rep ranges, I just loosely put them in there. Yes, we want to go from like 15, 12, 10, ideally. However, you have to observe your client as you're training them to see, like, okay, are they super out of breath? Are they really red? Are they sweating? Are they just like unable to talk? Well, then we're going to adjust the rep range. 15 may not be appropriate for them. So you always have to be observing, you know, your client and what's going on before you just, we're doing 15 reps. Well, maybe that's not the best idea for Betty. All right. Okay. So step up, which is which pattern?
All unilateral.
Okay. All right. So give me another core pattern movement based on her goals.
A row, a dumbbell row or a cable row.
Perfect. Love it. So let's do a dumbbell row. And what I like about this is if you're, say you're at a corporate gym, this is really a great program because in that first set, you're doing the squats and you can be right near the dumbbell rack to do the overhead press, right? So we're not having to run from one side of the gym to the other in hopes that the equipment's still available. That's important in writing a program too. So making sure that the exercises that we choose in what order we put them in, you know, we can easily move from one exercise to another. All right, so dumbbell rows, let's do 15, 12, 10 each side. And of course, if this needs to change, then that's fine. No big deal.
Would you do single or?
Yeah, I would do single just because most people are going to have a hard time bending over and doing a row, which I love those. However, for most people, they're going to round their back and their weights are going to be way far out. And they're going to be like, oh, I feel that in my lower back. So I don't do that until a client is more established.
Or like a 3-point holding the bench.
Yeah, I would do a 3-point row with the knee up and the one leg on the ground and then their hand is on the bench. All right, so give me an accessory for her.
Band walks?
No, Bonnie, we're not doing band walks right now.
She's lower body focused.
That's okay. We're going to do band walks at the end. I need you to throw that band out the window, Miss Bonnie.
I like band walks. I don't know what to tell you.
No, give me, let's think of a different accessory for her. Not band walks, because we still got step ups to do and we still got a hinge to do.
Those standing hamstring curls. Is that
standing? Okay, so we still have our hinge pattern to do, right?
Yeah, but I was thinking maybe that would help cue her for that.
Like help warm her up for that?
Maybe.
She might end up a little sore if we do that much volume for the hamstrings, you know? I mean, I'm just playing devil's advocate here. We would hate to send Betty home on a soreness level of 10 and then she never wants to come back. So I might err on the side of caution for that one.
How about crunches?
Yeah, so we were on the floor with the dead bugs already.
Or
dogs.
Like a tricep extension.
Yeah, we could do that. I like tricep extension.
Even though she wants lower body?
Yeah, we're not going to ignore all the other muscles just because she wants lower body. She just said strengthen lower body and gain strength. So I guess I could have gotten more specific and said, you know, upper body strength too. But when she wants to, you know, she wants to be able to pick stuff up later in life, right? She wants to be able to pick up her grandkids or carry her groceries from the car. Like that requires upper body strength. And that's how I'm going to pitch it to her as well. If she's kind of resistant. Well, you know, do you want to still be able to do, you know, asking her about her hobbies? What do you like to do when you're not working out? Give me some, and that's going to give you insight into her life, which could also help sell her, you know, if she's like, I don't want to do upper body. Well, you know, she says, I love to kayak. Well, do you want to keep kayaking? It's 75 years old. At 70 years old, then we're going to have to work some upper body. All right. So give me this third CCA. Oh, I'm sorry. For this one, for the rep ranges, I do 15, 12, 10. Okay.
For the third, we could do either like an RDL or just do some type of hip hinge.
Floor bridge.
Like a bridge, yeah.
Yeah, I would start with a floor bridge.
Is that like saying the floor bridge is a hip thrust? Well, the hip thrust is, wait.
Okay. Your back is elevated on something when you hip thrust and you have a barbell. But a floor bridge
has to be on the bench. Okay,
yeah,
so we're not doing that with her.
Mm-hmm.
Floor bridges is just on the floor. You can squeeze up and down.
Yes.
Okay, good.
Yep.
Yeah,
and here I would do 15, 12, 10. Bonnie, if you want to put a band around her feet or around her knees, that's fine, just to help her cue, or you could, you know, train her engagement, hold obviously ask her if it's okay if you touch her at first, but holding your outside of her knees and having her drive out. Of course, you don't want to make eye contact with her. So grab the knees, look the other way. All right. And yeah, so that's a way to get engaged during that exercise. All right. So since she's on the floor, let's think of another exercise we might be able to do with her.
Floor press.
Love that. Dumbbell floor press. All right. Same thing with the rep ranges there. And let's get her up off the floor. I'm okay with having a client stay on the floor for a couple exercises in a row. That's fine. So let's think of an accessory for her. So we're working the glutes with the floor bridges. We're working the anterior chest, triceps, and anterior deltoids with the floor presses.
Would you want to stay on the floor and then maybe do like planks?
Yeah, you could do that. I like that. I like that idea.
I almost went there, but then you said you wanted to get her off the floor.
Yeah, it's no, I was just saying I was fine with it. Like if you wanted to get her off the floor, keep her on the floor for 2 exercises, that's fine.
I like Leilani's idea of a farmer's carry, but that would be a core movement, right?
Yeah, you could definitely have her carry. So the next workout, and we're just going to go through this real quick. So that next workout, right? So day 2, when she comes in a couple days later, you check with her. She's not sore. She feels fine. You may start off with, let's see. Let's start off with that farmer's carry. Totally fine. It's a core pattern of movement. And it's something that we didn't hit that last time. So this is where we talk about, you know, you're just kind of changing the order and little things about the exercises for that next workout. So here we didn't hit, you know, look back at that day that you just programmed, see which patterns you didn't hit. So we've got the vertical press, we've got the horizontal pull, and we've got the vertical push. So we didn't get the what?
Vertical.
Which pattern? Yep. So what kind of vertical pull would you want to do with her on that second day?
You know what I want to do.
The lat pull downs. I love it. That's good. So
what's she gonna do?
Yeah, no, that's great. I love it.
Anything else? I would love to do something else, but that's
a great one. And so on this day, you could do the lat pull downs, and on the next time, you could do a single arm lat pull down, you know, with a band. One day you might use a cable, you know, one day you might use that long grip bar. So that's 3 different exercises that are 3 different to your client, but it's still within that vertical pull pattern. All right. So, and then with the accessory here, you know, just pick something, bicep curls. Well, so I'm okay, even though we're using our biceps in the lat pull down a little bit, I'm okay with doing bicep curls because chances are we're not going to maximum weight for those lat pull downs. I'm okay with doing bicep curls. All right. All right. So we're not going to go through the rest of day 2, but what I would pretty much do is take the unilateral and put that here. So we're going to do maybe a side step up on this day. All right. And then we're just going to take this side, the dumbbell rows, and someone give me a different horizontal pull that we're going to put in there. So we're still going to do the horizontal pull. We're just going to change it up a little bit.
Cable rows.
There you go. Cable rows into a different accessory, something completely different.
Dead bug. I mean, not dead bug. The other one, the bird dog.
Okay, love it. Bird dogs, perfect. So you see how we're just changing a little bit, and then you pick whatever you want. So she wants to do, you know, strengthen her lower body. We may pick a different type of squat. So maybe a goblet squat. Maybe she's did great on her first day of squats. She's not super sore. So we're going to add a dumbbell. All right. And then the seated overhead press may become a single arm standing overhead press. Okay. Single arm. There we go.
What's a bird dog?
So a bird dog is where you're basically on all 4.
Like the dead bug, but it's
yeah.
You're on all 4s.
Right.
Oh, okay. Oh, I got you. Okay, I see it now.
Yeah.
On all fours. Yeah.
Like this. And then you can do like opposite arm, opposite leg, like that. Boom. Or if someone's totally like just not doing great, you could just do one leg, you know, or one arm, just depending. Oh, sorry, you'll have to see my ugly knees. All right. Okay. So does everybody kind of understand? Go ahead and take a picture of this program.
Well, Katie,
actually,
can you move it up? Because I can't see on day 1, 3A. I don't see B.
You might
see dumbbell floor press.
You just didn't put the A by the floor bridge. It should be A by the floor bridge, B by DB floor press, and then the accessory is the plank. She just changed
3B on the day 1.
It's right here.
No, the other side.
I didn't write it.
Oh
yeah, the A just needs to move up.
Oh, I don't even see that. It looks good on mine. Okay, hang on one second. So give me an accessory for this.
Oh man, this is what I fear the most.
What do you fear? Tell me.
Blank. Like, it's like I know so many things, and then it's like,
you got to get out there and take a day and just.
How about bicycles?
Yeah, or Russian twist.
Let's do some abs in there.
I don't like Russian twists for most people because, but not saying that you can't do them. I might
later
just wait till she's in there a couple weeks, you know, gets her strength up a little bit to do the Russian twist, because sometimes it can tweak someone's lower back, the twisting under load and stuff like that. But, you know, at some point that could be appropriate for. All right, so everybody take a picture. Bonnie, can you see what you needed to see?
Yeah, it was on the other side. It was on day 1. I see 3A. I just don't see the B on the first one, the first day. That's all.
How's that? Okay. There you go. All right. Cool. Well, thank you guys. Okay, so I'm trying to go in and answer all these. Are there any questions in here?
I have time to ask a question.
Yeah, go for it.
So I'm meeting up with a friend tonight. She's been messaging me. It's called Training Babes, kind of like F45 or like an Orange Theory. And she said